Welcome to the Hyper Growth Zone podcast. This is your go-to resource for personal growth, mastering communication, and influencing and persuasion techniques that will help you unleash the full potential of yourself and others. Here is your host, Alex Morgan.
Welcome to another episode of the Hyper Growth Zone podcast. My name is Alex Morgan. I'm a master trainer of hypnosis and NLP, and this is going to be a real interesting episode because I'm sure you've met someone or you've known someone, and every time you see them, they have a different way of holding on to their problem. It's almost like they're aware of their problem, yet they talk about it so much that they find so many ways to hold on to that problem and keep that problem. It's almost like they want to have that problem. So I'm sure you've met someone like this before. Or have you ever been around someone and every time you see them, they tell you about a problem? And you're always wondering, why don't you just do something about this problem? Yet even if you were to offer any suggestion, they have an excuse, or the next time you see them, they'll even act like they did something about it. However, they'll tell you about this same problem, and something else happened that they couldn't believe that allowed them to just keep holding on to that problem. It's almost like they wake up, and when they wake up, they make a decision that they're going to hold on to this problem. So maybe you've met someone like this before. So what am I actually talking about? What am I actually referring to? Well, this is what we call secondary gain. So many times when I work with people, one-on-one or in groups, if they don't get rid of their problem and we went to the cause of the problem, or we even tried different techniques to get rid of the problem, and we even have rapport, and something isn't working, yes, it could be something I did. However, chances are this person has secondary gain. So what does this mean? It's like there's a hidden payoff to their problem. It's almost like they need to break free from something. And this is really important if you actually want to grow and change your habits, your behaviors, your focus, your reality, the suggestions you give yourself, your thoughts, your emotions, which all lead to your focus and reality, then you need to get rid of secondary gain. And secondary gain is the hidden, unconscious benefits that people create, they have, they get from keeping that problem. It's almost like they want to hold on to that problem for different reasons. And there's different types of secondary gain. So maybe if you help people get rid of problems and you're wondering why they keep coming back to you, maybe you coach, maybe you do therapy, whatever it is. Or maybe someone on your team at work or one of your employees, they keep having these problems. And you can think about it. Maybe they have secondary gain. So listen to these different types of secondary gain and see if you've ever known someone that has this type of secondary gain when I mention them. So the first one, it's emotional. So this person, the hidden unconscious benefit. And I'm saying unconscious benefit because many times people with secondary gain, you would think this would be so obvious to them. You're so consciously aware of it. You're like, they keep having the same problem. You want to shake them, like shake this problem out of them. Yet they keep having the same problem. And you're thinking, why don't you just do something about it? However, they have this hidden unconscious benefit that is so aware to you. However, it's not aware to them for whatever reason. So the first one, emotional. So some common examples here. Maybe people love to have the hidden unconscious benefit of getting attention, and they love to get sympathy from someone. So someone with a victim mindset, they want attention. They take pride almost. They're like, I have this problem. I mean, there's people I've seen who have asked for my help, and I asked them, have you ever seen someone else try to let go of their problem? And they tell me all kinds of different people they talk to. The first thing that goes off in my mind is, am I going to be able to help this person if they have so many ways that they've created their problem with so many other professionals who were simply trying to help them get rid of their problem? Do I want to be the 8th, 9th, 10th person to give them a new strategy for their new problem and be like, hey, I went to a hypnotist now, and the hypnotist couldn't help me. Yes, I want to help everyone, but I also have to decide who actually wants that help. So attention, people will hold on to problems so that they could come to you. That's why I said, have you ever met someone who every time you see them, they have a different thing to say about the problem, or they want sympathy? That's what they're doing. They want sympathy, or they want attention from you about their problem. So that's the first type of secondary gain. The second one, it's a bit more practical. So they do certain things. Some people, they avoid responsibility. So they don't want to take responsibility for what is going on around them. They're going to point their finger. They're going to blame others, blame other people, their colleagues, their family, their friends, any outside external person. They're going to blame it. They're going to avoid responsibility so they can have that victim mindset and get attention and sympathy. These kind of go together. However, when they're avoiding responsibility, what does that actually do to them? That decreases their choices, because the more you hold on to a problem, the more anyone holds on to a problem, you're not giving yourself any other choices. Your choice is to have that problem. And really, responsibility is having the ability to respond. A lot of people who get into business and they open up their business, they do it to achieve time freedom, financial freedom, spend more time with their family. They want to be free. And then they notice they start to have an internal conflict between freedom, which they want, and then the business feels like so much responsibility. So then they may be keeping problems in their business because of this conflict, and they're avoiding certain responsibilities and avoiding certain risks to achieve that true freedom. So it's, when are you going to commit to yourself, or when is any other person you've talked to when they're holding on to their problem, when are they going to commit to themselves to take responsibility, give themselves choices, give themselves the ability to respond, to really achieve what they want? A second practical example is something like financial support. So maybe someone holds on to their problems so that they could benefit in some way. They could ask for help. Now, I'm very, not leery, but when people ask me just for money, I'm always thinking, does this person really need money, or do they need something specific? Because if you think about it, if you were just giving someone money every single month, you don't actually know what they're doing with it. So someone that I know, they worked with someone and they said, you know what, me and my husband, we're all for helping people if they need help. We're fine helping them. However, if we're going to help people, we're going to give them money for a specific thing, something that they totally need, without a doubt that they need. So they would help people with things like groceries or a bill, something very, very specific, because they thought, if I just give this person $200, $300, $400, $500, what good is that going to do? How am I going to know what they did with it? However, if I bought them groceries, that's an expense that they're always going to have anyway, and it's better than just giving the person money. I thought it was interesting. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's an interesting way to think about it for people who have a hidden belief that they want some sort of financial support. Other people, it could be based on who they are, their identity. So some people hold on to a problem and they have this often hidden unconscious benefit of, this is who I am now. This is what they say. This is who I am. I'm this person, I'm this problem. I mean, think about it. Anyone with chronic pain, I'm not saying that they don't have chronic pain. However, this person, let's say someone has chronic pain for 2 years. Every single day, they've got up and they've remembered in their mind to run this unconscious strategy for pain. Yeah, that's right. They have. So maybe sometimes people have pain because they also want the substances to go along with it to make them feel better. They're getting dependent on those, so they keep having the pain to do that. This is who I am now. So it's quite interesting. This could be different for everyone. I'm not saying that this is something that you're doing or even someone that you know. It's just interesting to be aware of this, because the more you're aware of this, the more you can do something. So here's some other examples with chronic pain. Maybe someone can have chronic pain, and this is a reason for them to avoid their job. So they don't have to go to work. They can go on disability and make similar money without actually having to work just because they don't like their job. And so they decide that this is a better thing. This benefit is better than them getting rid of the pain. So they would rather do this instead of get rid of the pain. They can live with the pain as long as they don't have to work the job. Why not find a job that you like and get rid of the pain? I mean, in that case, you wouldn't be getting attention. You wouldn't be avoiding responsibility. And that person wouldn't be having that financial support. Or even someone, let's say that they have stress, they have anxiety, and every time they need to do something, they have an excuse so they can avoid that pressure. Now, if someone really does have anxiety and things like this, definitely there's things that you can do for this. You can go on my YouTube channel, Create Your Ideal Future, and listen to any of the hypnosis audios that I have. I have ones there specific for anxiety. A lot of times anxiety, some sort of fear that we have, and we need to let go of that fear. And a lot of times when we let go of that fear, the anxiety's gone. So would you rather have attention from anxiety? Or would you rather be able to face new situations? Again, choices. When you get rid of problems, it gives you more choices that you didn't even consider yet. And that's because people were not often limited by what we want to do and cannot do. We can certainly talk to people. We can certainly go to a job. We're often limited by the things that we haven't considered yet. So maybe someone has chronic pain, they have an anxiety, and they just haven't considered that one thing, that one solution, that one change. So the main problem people have, lack of consideration. So what is it that you can consider that will help you get rid of the problem instead of having that unconscious benefit? Or even someone, they have a conflict in a relationship, and that keeps them from having to be vulnerable, let's say, with themselves or with other people. So these are some common examples of what goes along with secondary gain and some different types of secondary gain. So maybe this information is new to you, and even if it is or it isn't, I'm sure it's quite interesting, and that means you're curious to hear a bit more, because we often hold on to problems for different reasons as well. The unconscious mind that is holding on to that problem, because if you think about it, the reason I do hypnosis is because I believe that the unconscious mind is what creates this problem, because 99% of the things that we do are automatic programs, automatic habits that are running in the background. And hypnosis gives you access to the unconscious mind to get rid of the problem. So the unconscious mind, it holds safety and familiarity in high regard compared to something like change. So why someone is holding on to a problem? Because they're safe. They're comfortable. I'm sure you know a lot about comfort zone, growth zone, hybrid growth zone because you listen to this specific podcast. So instead of them taking a risk, they're choosing to live a familiar reality because they want that safety, that security. That's what the unconscious mind wants. However, the unconscious mind may not know that there's other options, other choices, if you never show your unconscious mind more things that it can be capable of. You were born limitless. Creating problems and having problems and holding on to problems and hidden benefits of problems, that's only going to keep you limited. You were taught limitations, and now you're using those limitations to not get rid of a problem when you can actually be limitless again. So things like fear and your comfort zone, these reinforce the problem. You're comfortable. People are comfortable having a problem. Imagine that. If you were to ask them, are they comfortable having this problem? Chances are they would say no. However, people get comfortable having a problem. They get comfortable making a certain amount of money. They get comfortable in a certain relationship. So the more that you get comfortable in a problem, this just reinforces the hidden unconscious benefit to the problem. So you can actually help identify and find and discover and spot your own secondary gain. You can ask yourself some questions. What would I lose if this problem went away? Interesting question. What would I lose if this problem went away? Or what would I gain if this problem went away? Interesting. You can ask yourself both, and then that'll show you what are the consequences. What are some of the good things that could happen if you actually got rid of this problem? Or who would you be without this problem? Who would you be without this problem? And you can always ask these questions to people you know if you think that they're holding on to problems. You may want to soften it up a bit and say, hey, you know what? You've told me about this problem a few times, and I'm just really curious about how you're thinking about this. Do you mind if I ask you a question that I think will help so we can, have more beneficial conversations with each other? And then you can ask these questions. Or, what do I get from keeping everything the same? So what are you getting from keeping everything the same, or what is someone else getting? Or for what purpose do you have this problem? Interesting questions. The fact that you're asking questions about kind of why you have a problem, what this problem is doing for you, and how you notice how that is in your mind. So if you ask different questions, it can really help you let go of the secondary gain, the benefits of the problem. So the first thing, you have to have awareness, because a lot of people, they can't change what they cannot see. So let's say you're around someone and you have rapport with them, then it's probably okay to tell them, look, you've told me this many times about this problem, and I can see that we're having the same conversation over and over. I'm just really curious because I'm really excited for you if you could get rid of this problem. So use compassion. And I say curiosity because people can easily get rid of problems when they're curious, because they start considering things they never considered before. So when you say, hey, I'm curious, you're actually telling them to be curious as well. You can also replace the gain. That's why I said new choices. So there's more beneficial, more healthy ways to meet the same need. You can get support in so many other ways instead of attention, financial support, in so many ways from a problem. Design an ideal environment for yourself. Who are the people that you actually want to be around? And you'll notice that the people you want to be around, if they're creating things, they're successful, they're having curious conversations, and they're doing some inner work, chances are they're not going to be needing support from you, except support to make themselves better. You could also learn to relax with hypnosis, and you can find out your purpose. That's why I said, for what purpose do you have this problem? What's the purpose? What's the highest positive intention that you have from having this? And you can then work towards creating those highest positive intentions. Because at the end of the day, your problem, it's not that important. What's important is solutions. So these are some ways to really let go of the secondary gain. Yes, it's not so easy. If someone's had a problem for so long, like I said, someone had chronic pain for 2 years. So many times I talk to people and they've had problems for decades, literally decades. So when they get rid of that problem, it feels like they're getting rid of like a part of them. So when they get rid of that negative emotion, that hidden unconscious benefit, that limiting belief, whatever it is, they were motivated by that. So many of the things that they did, they were motivated by that. So then it's up to me and that person to decide what's going to be some good habits. What are some things now that they can use to motivate them and to actually get what they want? Because running that problem in their mind wasn't getting them what they want. And this opens their mind to freedom, that freedom that I mentioned earlier. Because you can have responsibility, the ability to respond, and you can have freedom all at the same time. This is a common predicament that many successful people find themselves in, freedom and responsibility. You can have both of these at the same time and give yourself exactly what it is that you want. So it's all about finding support, finding something that works with you. So ask yourself these questions. Ask these questions to other people. Or if you think other people need help to get rid of the hidden unconscious beliefs of their problem, you can reach out to me. All my information will be in the description of the episode. However, it'll be really interesting to see how you notice the conversations around you now that you know all this information. Definitely share this with someone who needs to hear this episode. I think it'll be really beneficial to not only people who have a problem and secondary gain can really open their mind to getting rid of it, but just anyone who works with other people and is wondering why their problem is not going away. If you haven't already, go ahead and rate the podcast wherever you are listening. It'll really help it get into the minds of so many other people. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope to see you on the next episode.